Just joining us, this is Taking Stock on Bloomberg. I'm Pim Fox. All right, you can see introduction, former President Bill Clinton introducing President Barack Obama at the Clinton Global Initiative. Let's listen in.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Please have a seat. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good evening. And thank you, President Clinton, for the extraordinarily brief introduction, which during the UN General Assembly week does not happen that often. I want to acknowledge Bob Harrison and the outstanding work that he's doing as CEO of CGI, as well as Ed Hughes, the Deputy Director of CGI, for their excellent work. Some of you are aware that last week, President Clinton and I were here in New York together. We were having lunch in a small Italian restaurant, and we talked about the economy, we talked about health care, we talked about pressing global challenges. And then he said to me, would you pass the Parmesan? And then he said to me, would you speak to our annual meeting? Now, I think everyone knows what it's like when Bill Clinton asks you to make a commitment. He looks you in the eye. He feels your pain. He makes you feel like you're the only person in the room. What could I say? I was vulnerable, just as all of you have been vulnerable to his charms. So I am happy to be here and honored by the invitation. And I've always appreciated President Clinton's valuable advice and the ideas that he's offered my administration. I do understand that the President's been having trouble getting a hold of my Secretary of State lately, but I hope he doesn't mind, because Hillary Clinton is doing an outstanding job for this nation, and we are so proud of her. I also want to just very briefly take this opportunity to thank President Clinton for his service. In his 8 years in office, he helped swing open the doors of opportunity and prosperity to millions of Americans. And as the first U.S. president to face the full force of globalization, he worked to share that prosperity with people around the world. From promoting trade to expanding education to forging a historic global compact on debt relief. After a lifetime of service, he would have been forgiven had he settled for a life of quiet, a life of ease, a life of improved golf scores. My understanding is they have not improved that much since he was in office. But he chose a different path. He asked, what can I do to keep making a difference? And what an extraordinary difference he, working with all of you, have made. For the victims of disaster, from the Asian tsunami to Hurricane Katrina, he's made a difference. For those in need, from parents and children battling HIV/AIDS to your efforts today on behalf of the people of Haiti, he's made a difference. It's no exaggeration. Around the world, Bill Clinton has helped to improve and save the lives of millions. That is no exaggeration. And this week, even as we gather at the United Nations to discuss what governments can do to confront the challenges of our time, even as we're joined tonight by so many extraordinary leaders, presidents and prime ministers, this global initiative reminds us of what we can each do as individuals. That you don't have to hold a public office to be a public servant. That's the beauty of service. Anybody can do it. And everyone should try. To all the CGI members here tonight, I want you to know how grateful I am for your efforts. And I know that those efforts require greater commitment at such difficult economic times. Indeed, your work and the spirit of service behind it is deeply personal to me. I've seen it. I've been shaped by it my entire life. I first saw it in my mother. She was an anthropologist who dedicated her life to understanding and improving the lives of the rural poor, from Indonesia to Pakistan. Whether working with USAID or the Asian Development Bank, the Ford Foundation, Bank Rakyat in Jakarta, or Women's World Banking here in New York, she championed the cause of women's welfare and helped pioneer the microloans that have helped lift millions from poverty. So my mother understood that whether you live in the foothills of Java or the skyscrapers of Manhattan, we all share common principles: justice and progress, tolerance, and the dignity of all human beings. And we all share common aspirations for ourselves and for our children, to get an education, and to work with dignity, and to live in peace and security. That's where I first saw that spirit. That's who planted it in me. And I saw this spirit again when I moved to Chicago, working as a community organizer on some of the poorest streets and some of the poorest neighborhoods in the United States. In neighborhoods devastated by steel plant closings, I worked with local churches to help people in need. And change didn't come easy, but with a lot of time and effort, it did come, block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood. That's when I learned that real progress does not just come from the top down, not just from government. It comes from the bottom up, from people.